they still believe somewhere deep inside that I don't need a degree, but obviously, if I have a degree, I'll be way better than somebody who doesn't have one,
Right.
right? Which is also not true.
So first one I wanted to talk about is switching specialization, and
Yeah.
a lot of designers go through that, and what happens during that transition, and how should you take up that transition, and what do you think about should one even transition, is it even worth it? Um,
Yeah.
and in what scenarios do you judge like this is okay to transition, etc. Let's start with
Mm.
you. What do
Cool.
you think?
Yeah. So I think transitioning to a UI UX designer,
Mm-hmm.
two scenarios, right? One is you're already in a design related field.
Mm-hmm.
And the second is you're in a field that's not related to design at all. Like it could be development, it could be in tech, or it could be something totally outside. Like you've done your BCom, or you're in a business role, let's say,
Right.
or you're in any type of role and you want to get into design.
Right.
I think in both cases, since design, like this is a thing which I have to keep iterating, which is you don't need a degree for design. Most people don't know that. And even if they do know that, they still believe somewhere deep inside that I don't need a degree, but obviously, if I have a degree, I'll be way better than somebody who doesn't have one,
Right.
right? Which is also not true.
Right.
In the sense that if you look at the way I explain it is if you look at India, if you look at the total number of design colleges, and
Mm-hmm.
if you look at what their UX or UI equivalent batches are, and how many students come out every year, it's a few hundred,
Right.
right? And these people are not prepared for really advanced roles either. Like these people know what they've been taught in college. So self-taught is the way forward. You
Mm-hmm.
can transition into UI UX design, whether you're a graphic designer, motion designer, something else in design, or even if you're a developer.
Right.
When you should do it, I think it's a matter of a transition. When we imagine it like this clean line where you're this and then you become this.
Right.
The way to get into UI UX design or any new field actually would be to start where you are already,
Mm-hmm.
which is usually we try to look at things from a perspective of I will start it when I get into design college,
Right.
or when I get a freelance project, maybe then I'll do it, or when my company gives me the opportunity to do this kind of project, then I will get into UI UX design. There's a lot of graphic designers I know who have UI UX design teams in their own company. They really want to do UI UX, but they're like, when I get a chance, I'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really interested. And the point is, dude, if you are really interested, you should be doing it already. You have to start where you are at right now.
Right.
So start small, build it up. It's like a snowball effect. Um, if the longer you take to get into it, and if you just keep thinking about it, it actually gets harder because that's inertia.
Mm-hmm.
You start, if you've been thinking about doing it for a year and you still haven't made any progress,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to feel bad, and that's negative inertia.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've been doing small amounts of stuff, you build up, let's say, a small portfolio, you do a few projects, you get some confidence, that's positive inertia. So
Right.
use inertia, start small, and start where you're at. That's what my advice would be.
Right. And I think I want to, for a little while, instead of answering the question, play devil's advocate and go to the other side and kind of try to make sense of what I've heard from designers, right, at different stages of trying to learn design and trying to learn design. And from developers, especially the switching role, right? You're switching from non-design. And a lot of them, like, it seems like, there are hurdles along the way. The first plateau is, should I learn about it? Will I be even good at it? Or am I just interested? Then,
Yeah.
okay, I decide that I'm interested and I'm going to get into it. The second question then that comes is, how do I get into it? Then people go, obviously I'll Google, I'll look around and try to make sense of it, and tons of stuff comes up. Typically ads from some institute will come up, and then it looks even more confusing. Oh, then there's certification, and those certifications make it sound even more official, that you are now officially certified UX designer, you're officially certified illustrator or graphic designer or whatever field you want to pick up. So it feels like that if there's an official certification that does exist, then that's what industry must look for, but if you try to get into that, then which institute is the best institute, right? Is it any different from what I've learned online all these years? So there's just countless questions after questions after questions, and
Yeah.
uncertainty and ambiguity, and there's no well defined path, right? So while I personally take that as, the point of like self learning is to carve out your own path, but like I would love to hear, like, how do you, look at that, like hurdles, how should one look at those hurdles and overcome them and think about it?
I think definitely that's some the kind of I think the kind of world we live in today, we have a lot of information,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not that people lack information, it's that they have so much information they don't know what they should listen to.
Mm-hmm.
And that is definitely a sort of big problem.
Mm-hmm.
um, so the thing that I usually tell people is that there is no right path,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is actually it sounds very simple, but it's actually a big game changer for people when they actually internalize and figure it out.
Right.
Which is, if you want to get into, let's say, IIT,
Mm-hmm.
there actually is a right path. There are things that you can do to get in. And if
Right.
you do something else, it reduces your chances of getting in,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's probably the same for most things that you've been exposed to at the start of your career, which is you think that there is a right path to do things. But the more experience you get, you realize there is no right path, right?
Right.
Because, like, I'll give you an example of Unacademy itself.
Mm-hmm.
So at Unacademy, I've hired overall, I would say, more than 10 designers.
Mm-hmm.
But at any given point of the team, I think I was telling somebody this during an interview as well, which is we had 8 designers at that time.
Mm-hmm.
One of them had gone to design school.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was from architecture.
Mm-hmm.
One was a CA at before.
Okay.
One of them was a computer science engineer. One was an electrical engineer.
Okay.
Um, it was very diverse, and we had 1 or 2 people who actually went to design school.
Right.
And what that just goes to show is there's no one right path. So that actually makes it way trickier, because now you have all this information and you're telling me that there's no right path to do it. The point is, you need validation. So as you move in your journey, you need some checkpoints which say you're doing well, you're doing well. And usually institutes help provide that. So if you are self-learning, set up milestones and checkpoints to keep checking in to make sure you're not slacking off.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever path you are taking, as long as you're hitting certain checkpoints, you're good. And what these checkpoints are, actually, let's talk about that. Right?
Right.
I would want your opinion on this as well.
Okay.
When starting out as a designer, what are some checkpoints that you think they should, hit?
I think it's very subjective, right? Because what kind of designer you want to become. The only common thing we can, of course, the first kind of checklist you want to build is the technical checklist, right? Let's say you want to become a graphic designer, then you look at all the skill set that you may need for that, and that's where you start from, right? Like, and over time, as you start learning, your checklist will get more refined.
Yeah.
You know more things you don't know. You will discover more things you don't understand at all. So I think that's the technical aspect of it, but the non-technical aspect of the checklist will be around first having certain kind of moments, because design is a very it's taught by experience. You can read 1,000 blog posts and read books about it and take courses, but
Yeah.
doing design is doing design. It's really in a weird awkward space in the head. So I think in that non-technical checklist for me, there would be these couple of experience. First, have hope for an experience, let's say in your first year, and as soon as possible, as soon as you're able to handle it. An event where there's feedback that completely destroys all your assumptions. Right,
Mm.
that's the first event I would hope happens with me. The second one that I would hope for is where I am able to observe the user using, the product I'm building or the design I'm working on. So that's the
Yeah.
second moment I would hope for, and that's I mean, especially for folks coming in from like a traditional design school, it may sound like, oh, so aren't we going to do research for like every project? So how is that a milestone? But one would be surprised like by the reality of that, of what happens there. So a lot of times you just don't have time for research. Like just
Yeah.
to get an example, like right now, COVID-19, scare is going around, and that has impacted travel industry, including head out a lot because people are not traveling around. And
Yeah.
right now, what our response is, right, as a design team, of what is required and what customers are asking or what they are feeling, we don't have time to like think about, oh, we're gonna follow the process of like, okay, let's go down and start research. You have the literature, you have what you have, you make do with the information you have at the moment, because information everywhere like is very little and very scarce. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of real life scenarios where you can't just follow the book by the process. So I think hoping for that realization is one of the important things. But the most powerful way to experience that is to notice a customer actually using your product, right, and talking about it, where when they don't know, maybe that, I mean, where they don't feel watched. I mean, they got to know because you got to have consent, because but at the same time they got to be comfortable enough where they don't feel being watched, so you can watch them in their natural habitat. So I think at least those would be two a designer should hope for,
Yeah.
apart from achieving the technical aspect they achieve, and the rest is like an artist journey. That you're not great at typography, then you want to get better at that. You're not great at let's say colors, so you're gonna get better at color combination. Like I suck at colors at times. I'm really good at colors or I suck at colors. That's why my personal website is also all gray. Like that's what I go for. But when I'm painting or drawing, like I'm good with colors, right? Like suddenly, like all of that is back. So it's very fluctuating. But I know it's been on my personal checklist and what progress I'm making there, right? So I think that checklist is forever. But yeah,
Yeah.
keeping an active active checklist is important. And I've been
Yeah.
I think that idea I've been sharing with a lot of interns as well. What you're talking about, like the moment you go into an internship or join a new job, just go in before getting in with a checklist of what you want to achieve or learn while there, and if possible even share it with your reporting manager. They would be happy to know, like, what kind of projects you are interested in, what you should be guided towards. So just that simple idea of just making like 10 bullet points, like of what you want to sort of learn. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's about the checklist. To get into specifics of like
The
specific
kind
kind of
of
questions.
checklist that
Yeah.
I'll also talk about a little about the checklist
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
Um, the way I also tell people is it's hard to get lost in the depth of things, which is
Hmm.
why it's also probably a good idea to set timelines for certain things.
Right.
So one timeline that I've told a couple people is that if you're getting started in UI UX design today,
Hmm.
your timeline should look like this. So within the first week,
Hmm.
you should know how to use Figma,
Right.
right? It only takes a week to learn.
That's
It's
true.
actually as simple as that. Within the first month, you should be able to make a couple of screens. And by a couple of screens, I don't mean like just two screens. I mean, you should be able to try recreating a variety of screens such
Hmm.
that you start understanding the depth of the software, which
Hmm.
is what it can do. So that is within 1 month. Parallelly, you should also start reading about what are the different things out there, which is breadth is one, which is freelancing. You have colors, typography, UI design, UX design, mobile versus web. You have grids. You have so much stuff, and then there's something which is depth, which is actually getting into how do you actually do this one thing really well.
Right.
So as a learner, you have to go breadth as well as depth. But within your first month, first 3 months even, you should be exploring a lot of breadth.
Hmm.
So booklets.io, the site that I run, that is mostly about showing breadth, which is on this site, for example, you will be able to find snippets of different fields just to understand that there is something called material design out there. there is
Right.
something called illustrations, and there are sites where I can get illustrations.
Right.
Or there is something called an 8-point grid. There's something called a 12 column grid.
Right.
Because when you're starting, you don't know what you don't know,
Right.
right? And that blankness can get intimidating.
Right.
So, first 3 months, you understand what the field is.
Mm-hmm.
Within your first 6 months, get your first project.
Mm-hmm.
This is either a freelance project, it's a full end to end app.
Mm-hmm.
Either freelance project. I don't think you'll be able to get an internship within this, but it is possible. I know folks who've done it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or even if it's a personal project for your case study.
Right.
This first project in your first 6 months of learning design will be an end-to-end thing, which is it's not just a couple of screens, it's a whole system. The
Mm-hmm.
user enters here, they do this, they do that. And this first project is probably not going to be very great,
Mm-hmm.
but it's going to be something. And this is going to be your first case study that by month 8, or maybe you are doing this parallelly,
Right.
this will be the thing that will uh, sort of be the bedrock of your portfolio,
Right.
which is normally designers, when they start their portfolio, they have daily UI on their thing, which is they're just doing a bunch of experiments,
Right.
which is also okay, but having real case studies is really good. So this is sort of the milestone that I lay. This is sort of for like the first year,
Mm-hmm.
but then at the same time, it's tricky because there is no path.
Mm-hmm.
These are milestones. So you might actually do this way faster. You might complete this whole thing in actually just 3 months,
Mm-hmm.
and that is okay too. Or it might take you longer based on how much dedication you're actually giving to transitioning into UI UX.
Mm-hmm.
It might not be a full time effort for you, but that's sort of how I would lay it out.
I think that that's a wonderful framework for people to follow.